Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Sparesbox and Valvoline. Today we are back at Haltech with Scotty and we're finally going to be tuning the IS600.
Just going through and getting all my table axes in all the right shapes and getting all of the bits that I like. And the one thing that we had that was vastly different is we've got injectors. And we reckon they were going to be 700s.
Smarty key.
Ah,
I did the same thing before, I held it and it just catches you out, eh?
my Falcon had that like forever and I don't know if I'll ever get used to it.
I'm the opposite, I'm used to it and I flick like my Sigma and I'm like, it's like, it has a carby, bro. Doing weird stuff. Did you get rid of the choppy idle?
Sorry?
Did you get rid of the choppy idle?
Oh yeah, I'll put it back though. So that's what it's like at the moment, and all you do, like we were talking about, you go there, minus 20. Weird is going on. Hey bro.
Made more power.
Are we already up?
We made like 160.
Are we finished?
I think we made 160.
Smells like new.
Burning paint and shit.
How sick is it when you rev this and it actually moves?
Drops the car.
That's rad. What do you reckon? Should we just give it a power run and cross our fingers? So that's what we've got to beat. What do you reckon? We just give it a power run and see what happens, and we'll figure it out from there. Start.
Are you tuning it or the truck tune?
Truck. No, a bit of a mixture. Up, full throttle.
That's the same tune.
Yeah. Go. Not terrible, but it's a good start. Now go through and see what our O2 sensors are doing and try and just flatten out the mixtures a little bit.
It's like double the power.
Just straight away. Yeah, I think we'll rearrange the strapping stuff only that, whether it's the alignment or the tyre, whatever it is, straight away I can smell that there's rubber. So we'll fix that. We're just having a quick look through the mixtures there and everything seems not terrible, and just doing a bit of a health check. Like I said, our battery voltage sits at 13.3 down to 12.9 at the top, so I'm not too worried about. Not worried about that. Coolant temp from that pull went from 90 to 92, so not that worried.
I think maybe the rubber smell may be my shoe.
Seriously?
Yeah.
It's stuck there.
It was. Yep, definitely my shoe. I don't think it's the tyre.
Oil pressure, it's got 45 pounds at 2 grand, and then 65 pounds at 6.5 grand.
Cool.
So can't argue with that.
I was smelling, I'm like, it doesn't really smell like tyres, but I'm like, but then they're brand new tyres, so maybe it could be that.
Just, unless it's on the inner guard or something, it's not, do they rub?
I wouldn't be on the inner, it might be the outer. But if it's the outer, it's got to get it sorted out anyway. So.
I'll give you a witness spark.
Yeah. Got to sort itself out. Self-clearancing.
All right, so just going to calibrate the speed quickly. And we'll do the gear setup stuff.
Don't go too crazy with that because I am going to change the diff at some point.
Okay.
So it'll totally new position, won't it?
That'll be right. I'll show you how to do it. First things first. That fixes that one. 60 and 60, so that's going to work. And then we'll go for, okay, fourth gear. This is awesome, and what we're doing here is calibrating the ratio between the engine RPM and the drive shaft. The ECU can calculate the gear ratio, so that way we don't have a gear position sensor or anything, but we can still display gear on the dash. It's quite nice. Done. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This got clutch or brake sensors, even of that. I know that's cool as well. So we can do match, like downshift rev matching as well. So if you're shifting, say from 4 back to 3rd, like in a it'll rev match. It'll bring the RPM up, sit on a rev limiter, and wait till you get there. Yeah, that's cool. And then if the car slows down in the meantime, that rev limiter moves around. It's crazy. Really cool.
This has proper drive shaft RPM too.
Yeah, beautiful.
Because it's got a sensor on the output of the box.
Oh yeah, so perfect.
Because there was no sensor on the box at all, so we can put one in.
Oh yeah? Ooh. We'll give it another run, make sure we're kind of in the ballpark. The mixtures are about right, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do about trying to get that number higher. So we've got 2 degrees of timing in it, and we're looking for a gain compared to that last pull. 2 degrees extra, I should say.
Yeah. I knew what you meant.
Degrees out. All right, it's pretty much where it wants to be.
Yeah.
A bit nervous.
Why?
A bit nervous.
Why?
Because I'm not sure how much power we're going to make.
I don't care what power it makes, bro.
Yeah?
No. I was only staring you.
Oh, I
If
reckon.
it makes less power, it makes less power. It's more than double what it made before.
I'm feeling like...
I don't actually know what that cam is, that's the thing.
Okay.
It's a random cam that was in the engine.
It makes a lot of noise and it's very cool.
But I wonder if it's a cam that's designed to make noise and be cool, not actually make power.
I wonder if there's something in that.
If it makes slightly less power, it just means cheap tyres.
Alright, so we've got enough logging in here to kind of get as much stuff as I think we're going to need. Fairly decent timing in it already. It's not taking much more, like it doesn't want...
Yeah, I saw you put more in and just did literally the same trace.
Yeah,
So
so...
like it's just more timing to beat it to death, not to make power.
Not going to happen. So pull 2 degrees out of it and we've dropped a bit of power and a bit of torque.
So it wants that timing.
So I was pretty comfortable with where we were. So if we come back over to this other screen. So a violet one is kind of where we guessed and sort of started with. And then have just tidied up the mixtures and pulled a bit of fuel out and kind of got it in the right spot. And you can see there that yellow and green. So if we look at power over the left and then the torque that it's making, which I don't know if we've got a shot of that on the right hand side, but that yellow one there, you can see we were making of calculated torque. It did have 748 to 751, like a tiny amount, but the difference is enough that we can go, you know what, there's something going on there. Typically what I like to do is make, like, not to have it on the edge. I don't think there's a need to be doing it. So typically if 2 degrees isn't making a significant amount of torque, it comes out, and then another one comes out as a safety factor.
Yeah.
And we're pretty close. So for an unknown cam and for what's going on, our mixtures are not terrible. Everything's in the ballpark. If we knock off all of these ones, yeah, that's our difference, I suppose, which is like apples with road speed along the bottom. With the other engine, you had 94 to 130 kilowatts.
So the green is the LS and the red is the 1G.
Yeah. So it used to have 120 kilowatts there.
So it's got literally got 100 kilowatts more in the same spot.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Zing.
Still climbing.
And you watch me go no faster at the track with it. I melted my shoe, Dave.
Yeah, so, alright, we'll let it cool down for a little bit, leave the fan on for a bit, and then we'll give it another belt. If you just keep doing the same thing over and over, and the same method, I think having the same method is really important every single time. And once you get that method down, man, it's pretty easy. So we've ended up with 20 degrees at 3 grand to, say, 26 degrees on the limiter, something like that. So as you get to peak torque, it should have the lowest ignition timing. Then when you start revving it past peak torque, you put the timing back in.
Was Marty's on 98 or 85?
98. Yeah. I wonder if the difference between whatever camshaft this has got and the 6 litre to the 6.2, maybe someone can jump in and help us with that, because that might be a thing. But we'll cool it off a bit because we know how much they love a bit of cold air. We'll give it the belt, and then we'll go back through, and after this we'll then do...
Sorry man, I just saw this E85 on the ground. Is this yours?
It's not.
Oh. Well, you may as well have it.
Thanks, bro.
Okay. No worries.
You reckon he's trying to tell you something?
I don't know.
Nah, don't do it.
Do you want to flush it out, Dave? He's full to the brim. Do you want to flush it out? No. It's full to the brim. I must be the only person who's taken to a tuner like brim.
Yeah.
You're supposed to tune it on vapor, aren't you? Bro, just do like 4 pulls.
Oh, and the dash. How sick is that? Sounding and feeling really good.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to get another
Honestly,
blast.
I don't care about the actual number. I was just more like G'ing everyone up, man. At that power, it's going to still destroy tyres at a rate of knots. So.
Yeah, it'll be a sick car. All right, so the next thing for Matty, the next thing we're going to do, full throttle shit's obviously only part of it, so we're going to do full throttle, we'll do another pull, make sure that our mixtures look right and the O2 sensors aren't working very hard and they're pulling. So I try and aim for the O2 sensors to be pulling about 3% at the top, all everywhere basically. So that means if an O2 sensor ever fails, it goes 3% rich. And when you're doing that throttle blipping sort of shit and that real transient throttle stuff, it's nicer for it to be a little bit richer than it is a little bit leaner, where it gets a bit asthmatic and a bit poppy and a bit crackly. So we'll give it another run and make sure my trims are on the money. Then I'm going to do a 75% throttle body run. So do a full pull at 75% throttle, then a full pull at 50% throttle, and then try a pull at 25%. But normally at 25% throttle, it's not enough power to actually draw the graph, but you'll see what I'm doing. Then we'll go back through the logs and make sure that there's no holes in the fuel map anywhere. And then the last bit after that, while we're going all that, we'll do all of that. Then, I know this is a race car, but it doesn't matter. We'll go back. Oh, yeah, that's okay. We can try for flames. Then
I want it to be a car.
We'll cruise it at 40 k's an hour and do like all the speed limits and just check from 10 to 50 kilowatts at all the speed limits. So 40, 6, 70, whatever, or whatever. And
checking both fuel and timing.
Fuel and timing to make sure we've got the most timing to be getting the most economy, and we're making the most power, and the mixtures are all in the right spot. And then it doesn't matter if it's a race car, it should drive nice. There's no need for it, and it takes an extra 10 minutes, and then you know that everything's done. I don't care what type of car, it's just as long as the cooling system can handle it, and as long as the engine doesn't have like a limited number of cycles. Like, but really, if it's got a radiator, you should be doing this.
Bro.
Yeah. All right, first big one, last big one.
Solid recovered engine, eh? It's already been through a lot, it'll be fine.
On, pull, go. On, pull, go.
Like the pull down.
Up here. Still keep recording.
You asked Scotty about that throttle body thing we were talking about? I asked him, yeah, it makes sense. Oh, you're doing throttle percentage again. That was like a $130 eBay radiator.
Wow, and that's what we did just then. Is that's hard
Testing it,
work.
yeah. Like it's just come up a touch now.
Somewhere around there. It just wants a couple of percent. It's nothing crazy. I'm just looking at roughly what RPM it is. So from 4.5 onwards at 5 inches. Smooth it out a little bit. The long-term trims, remember, are there as well, and they're helping us with all this part of it. And I've normally got, so we'll see what the long terms are doing just little bits and pieces here and there. But I try and do all of the tuning stuff with the short term. I start with the short term trim only, but I let it do heaps of work for me, because that way I can just watch what the trim's doing to get between the target and the
Tells
actual.
you what it's doing. The
And I
percent
just-
that you need to either
yeah,
add or minus.
yeah.
And
Yep, and I'll just go apply that straight to the fuel map.
Yep.
Get on with it. Go, go, go. I find I struggle if I've got the short and long term on at the same time, roughing something in, because there's just too much going on. You don't need that much.
Yep.
And then all I ever try and do is, once it's kind of in the ballpark, I normally do 25% short term and long term.
Okay.
And then once everything's in the ballpark, I try and narrow it up a little bit. So we might now go short term plus or minus 15%, long term plus or minus 20%, and she's going to be pretty close. So that was all the cruise. Everything's there. The next bit we'll do is we'll go through and do all the speed limits and just make sure that it feels about right in all those places.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy with everything there, but you can, and all I'd be looking for is torque in the top right-hand corner, making sure that we've got the most torque we can get with the timing. And if you put a couple of degrees in it and the torque spikes, you can go, whoa, but if it does basically nothing, like under sort of 20 newton meters, on light load stuff, I wouldn't even bother. But the name of the game is the more timing we can get into it in those light load areas, it will get better fuel economy. It might feel a tiny bit better to drive, but it'll be pretty hard to tell.
Okay.
All right, so now, so straight away there, looks like it's kind of in the right spot, and just putting the tiniest little bit of extra effort into those weird little spots, it makes it so much crisper to drive. You just, there's a big buzzword about throttle pumps, and everyone wants to talk about throttle pumps, but no one wants to tune the fuel map and put fuel in the right places. So if you do the fuel map properly, you can put very little effort into the throttle pumps and you're away. Good to be here, yeah. Well, another incredibly well-built car with very little hassle that all just works.
Thanks.
It's good, man. Really good. Really, really good. I think that's pretty good power, and it's got heaps of grunt down low.
Shit, yeah.
This is going to be a...
I feel like it was spinning the wheels when you were rolling the gears then. Like
Yeah,
I was watching the
it's just-
speedo, I'm like, it's not sapping the speedo at the wheel. Like if we were watching dyno speed versus
Yeah, you'd
what
see...
the dash is showing, there's no way it was matching that. Unless the retarder was off.
When I was doing that, it was free
Oh,
spinning
okay,
on the
right.
retarder.
That makes more sense then, because I was watching the speedo
Yeah.
and I was like, it was picking up
Zap.
40 kilometers instantly, and I'm like,
Yeah.
nah. So it was basically on a treadmill that was turned off.
Except for, on the retarder, it still is accelerating the mass of the rollers and the retarder, which...
So there's no load on it.
No load, but it is still work to accelerate that.
Yeah, it's
So
still
it's-
not. It's not like spinning it on jack stands.
No.
Yeah, which is good though. 'Cause I hate just free revving shit.
Yeah, not a...
It's like, I don't know.
What is this? This does
It
thrust.
hurts
Is that a
my
thrust
soul.
bearing thing? Is that what it does?
There's
Thrust in the
bearings
engine.
LSs.
I love it. Just revving the shit out of stuff.
We ran out of map sensor in the Cresta.
Oh yeah?
Did Matty tell you? Yeah.
No, what did
43.5 apparently is where the sensor ran out.
Taco we're going to change. So we're limiting the engine at 67, which you're not going to get there. We're more doing it that you're not going to rev it that hard. And then put the upper threshold at 6.
Yeah.
And then if this was the dash you were going to be using, what would you want along the bottom? You'd want oil pressure.
Well, fuel. You pretty much nailed it.
Oil pressure,
Fuel
pressure, coolant temp,
Air temp.
air temp, battery voltage is in that top thing. Battery voltage is going to go red below 11.5 volts. Because you don't really need that. You've got engine RPM and then fuel level when that happens. It'd be nice to be there. So we'll flick this in, and this is kind of what I like to see. And then we'll do the shift lights along the top, and we'll put some warning banners in as well. I don't know if we can do it with a phone, but I've changed the brightness on it.
Oh, yeah.
So that it'll be dull when it's at night time, and then as soon as you go out in the sunlight, it dims down and just figures it out.
Because you're not going to have it on the dyno with the headlights on.
Nah. Remember that back in the day, the blue dashes, and like how they were
Fucking hell, bro. The Cresta.
oh man, you couldn't see.
Well, Scotty, we cranked out nearly 400 horsepower, 288 kilowatts. It's pretty much where we thought we were going to end up, between sort of that 4 to 450 horsepower. 450 was probably a little bit ambitious.
Probably keen on a 6 litre with an unknown camshaft. Probably a bit keen, but man, you can round that easy. 300 kilowatts, 400 horsepower at the wheels.
Yeah.
Man, I think, and it's come up real nice. Like it's using the right amount of fuel, and the mixtures look good. Everything just looks good.
Yeah, it's all super happy.
So we haven't had to fight for it.
No, it's definitely not been one of the epic tuning sessions we've had in the past.
Man, all of stuff. It's a known entity. Most of this stuff now, and we've kind of done enough that we know what to expect. And sometimes with that, it's complicated because, say, if you had a 6.2. And it didn't make, say, 320 kilowatts, you'd be thinking,
looking for a problem.
What's going on? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
With this, 300 kilowatts,
Hang on.
that's where it's going to be. And if you put a super spicy camshaft in it, we might end up with another 20 or 30 kilowatts.
Yeah.
Realistically, for what this has made over the supercharged kit, over the factory setup, and the type of car that it is, man, this will be fun for a long time.
And the thing is, with that engine in that power level, it will go for a long time.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of the reason I was looking at doing turbo setups, and not with the 2 litre. Like obviously we kind of expired the 2 litre, and that plan sort of went by the wayside, and we were looking at different engine combos. I actually thought about doing a turbo K series, and then I was like, that'll happen one day. I'm never going to rule out the turbo K series, but for what I wanted to do with this car, I was like, we want something that's going to be super reliable at kind of that 400 horsepower range, and then easy to get parts for as well. Like if for whatever reason it does break, you can still buy head, crank, block, rods, everything aftermarket, everything fairly cheaply. So it's not like we've now married ourselves to a orphan engine that is going to be hard to get parts for. Like even Adam's S13 with the VH45 in it, if that breaks, we're probably going to have to look at putting something else into it. Like those VH45s are pretty thin on the ground, so I mean, I don't want to go against the grain, but that may end up with an LS as well at one point.
Man,
They just work.
I get it. I get all of the things, but
yeah, people that hate on LS conversions haven't either done one or owned one because they just work so well.
Or just driven one as a normal everyday car, like the grunt that they make. Like that we always talk about the top number, and I get it, and that's awesome. But man, where this makes like 50 and 80 and 100 kilowatts, like they do feel good.
Yeah.
You know, and bang for buck, it's tricky to argue that you should be putting something else in this to make a guaranteed 400 horsepower and be able to service it. Like I don't even know what you'd try and get.
Yeah, like I mean, you could look at high-end Euro stuff, but it's triple, quadruple the price tag of an L98 with a 6-speed. Like for argument's sake, you look at some of the projects you guys have been involved with, like that V12 Ferrari engine, and just the price on that engine alone, like you're probably looking at 50 grand for a long motor, or more. What, 100?
It sounds amazing though.
Oh yeah, it's amazing sounding, but. What's it make at the wheels? Like 450, 500 horsepower?
Yeah, something. Yeah,
it's a lot of money for that extra 100 horsepower, and then maybe when it breaks, it's another 100 grand to fix it again.
Wild, eh? So we're on the right track, man. With what we're doing, this is a nice thing, but we won't rule out as well that remembering that this is starting to get to an older platform, and we know that newer stuff coming through.
But really, the LT series and.
Well, the LT stuff, Eric from the States, he's got one of them in his car that he drag races. It seems to be performing pretty well.
Yeah, and they just brought out that new 6.6 litre or something, like another LT family engine. I'm not sure exactly what the name is, but they're pumping that hard. GM's pumping that hard as a crate motor. So there's all these crazy engines that are now coming out, and they're making 500 horsepower, and you pull them out of a cardboard box, bolt them in where your LS was, and off you go. Like it will actually... Like those LTs will bolt in place of an LS. Yeah. Obviously there's electrical differences and stuff, but if you've got headers and mounts and a gearbox, it's only logical to progress to the new stuff later on.
Yeah, and then by the time that everyone gets to have a little bit of a play with them, and all of a sudden, in your head, that's going to make X amount of power, man, at least they'll still be available for us, and I think it's a big deal.
Cool. And that's the thing too, like availability of engines is actually not a thing. Like trying to source a front cut, it's not a thing anymore. Like 1J, 2J, RB, rotaries, like all these engines, the hero cars that they came from, A, are now 30 years old, and B, are worth too much money to pull the motors out of.
Yeah.
So like an RB26 is 10 grand now. Yeah. When I started pulling cars apart, they were 2.5 grand.
Yeah, so
the price is ridiculous.
We need to start looking at things like, and it's not, I'm not even joking, but like something like a new Toyota Camry engine or I'm sure that there's so many engines that haven't been discovered yet that, like as an unopened engine, you can turbocharge them and have 600 horsepower, but...
Well, like that, back to the K24, like they were kind of always by the wayside as a junker, and everyone always wanted that, like K20A, with the 6-speed and all that deal, and then all of a sudden that engine was like 10 grand, and people were like, well, let's look at other options, and then people started turboing the K24 for like literally $1,000.
Yeah.
And they're just another really good option.
Yeah, I'd still argue K24 is probably one of the best engines ever made. It's got to be.
Yeah, the engineering concepts in that engine, they just work so well.
Yeah. And
they'll go for 500,000 Ks.
Yeah. A lot of manufacturers, there's a lot of hidden, and I'm sure that in the next couple of years there'll be a lot of random cars that all of a sudden will just become your standard and be like, oh, that's got a Mazda whatever in it that we don't even know about yet.
Well, even look at this this new Yaris engine.
Yeah.
There's already engine swaps in Japan going on with that engine.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So like, I mean, we've only had it here for what, 7 months now, but the fact that people are already putting that engine into other cars, it's like pretty cool.
Yeah, big deal.
I think going forward, super small displacement with big turbos, almost like F1 style, is going to start to come through again.
That will be pretty cool, and especially now that like a lot of the later model stuff with direct injection where you can run those high compression ratios and you can sort of control it, and they are a bit more stable than they used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
big
mean,
deal.
look at VL turbos, the compression ratio was like in the 7s when they were turbo.
Yeah.
And now factory turbo cars nearly in the 10s.
Yeah, big deal.
If it's like port injected, and then a turbo direct injection car's probably in the 12s for comp ratios.
Yeah, so it's making them drive like they actually do feel good now.
They're responsive off boost.
Yeah, yeah.
So not like an old turbo car where you're really pushing to get it on boost to actually get it moving.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's been a pretty good result.
Bro,
We could sit here and chat forever.
we could. Thanks for coming. It's
got,
amazing.
Sandwiches to eat.
It's time for lunch.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thanks, Scotty. That was a pretty good result. Like,
And they tune up good every time. Like, awesome. Love the car. Love the grunt that it's making. So like the torque that it's making where, like obviously this car never had any torque.
Yeah.
Even supercharged, it probably didn't have as much as it should have.
Yeah.
So driving it now, I can't wait to get out and see what it does.
and at one point, you showed me the map, and it literally made exactly 100 kilowatts more. At one point, it was like 108 kilowatts with the old engine, and with the LS, it was 208. So, just in that particular point there, it was going to be more power, and then it's sort of exponential the further you go up the graph.
And just remembering, the number we talk about when we say this makes 300 kilowatts and 400 horsepower, yeah, that's at the top.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, comparatively, we're at say $4,000, for example. Yeah, this is making.
It would have made 90 kilowatts before, and now it's making probably 190 kilowatts.
200 and something. Like
200.
it's more than double the car everywhere. Like
Yeah.
this is going to be awesome and do some pretty massive skids, I think.
And now I'm going to have to learn to drive because it's probably not actually going to get any faster at Wakefield.
Yeah, this is going to
The
be.
car will be faster, but I won't be.
It'll just be looking for every wall now.
I hope not. I just made it all nice and straight.
Yeah, it does look good.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Still needs a cut and a buff, but we're definitely getting there.
Oh, you can concentrate all the fun bits now.
100%. Well, thanks, mate.
Pleasure.
I appreciate it
Thanks
as
for
always.
coming.
It's always a good time when we get together and shoot the breeze, and
especially
get
when
some
it just
tuning down.
works and it's like pain-free for the day. It's almost just like coming to hang out and you don't even think you're at work. So that's pretty cool.
Mate,
Yeah.
thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.